beautiful about, oops, there's a recording that came. All right. So Santosh says that there's something dreamy and beautiful about gazing out of a window seat. He says it does not matter if you are on a bus, on a car, or in a flight, because the outside world just comes alive through the window seat for you. It's a keyhole that allows us to get into the magic and the mystery of the world outside. So this is ODS effort at the window seat with all of you here. We are here and we are here to get a peek into the mysterious and the fascinating world of a leader, to bring the human being behind the leader to the forefront, to understand their inner world a little bit. So, and the reason we're doing this is because there's a lot of focus on leadership today. There's a lot of conversation about what leadership should be, should not be, whether in the context of our country, whether in the organizations, or even at our homes. There's a lot of awareness or growing awareness about the impact of leadership on creating an environment that thrives, where people are happy to come to and be challenged and to grow. And so rightfully, like the Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. And that said, there's also one part of leadership that we often don't talk about, which is the fact that leaders are human beings like the rest of us. There's a lot of dilemmas that they face. There's a lot of uncertainty that they navigate. And there are a lot of expectations that actually make their position very vulnerable. So it's really quite fortunate that we get a chance to really hear from the leaders themselves. Who are they as people, you know? How do they experience leadership? What can we all collectively learn from them about this boat that they're sailing day in and day out? And we are so excited because we couldn't have asked for somebody better to start off the series with than Sanjeev Navangul. Sanjeev is the CEO and MD of Bharat Serums and Vaccines. But most importantly, Sanjeev is a leader who's gained a lot of love, admiration, and respect from leaders from across the industries. So we're very, very excited to have Sanjeev here. He's an avid advocate and practitioner of value-based organizational culture. And he's very much recognized for it. And Sanjeev, maybe you can tell us what that means a little bit, in a bit. Sanjeev's mentorship and contribution towards a value-based culture is widely appreciated. He's been on the board of Johnson & Johnson of Fulford India. He's been in several leadership roles in the 30 years of his career. As managing director of Janssen in India and South Asia. He's been the managing director of MSD Pharmaceuticals in Philippines and commercial director for MSD India and South Asia. He's received several awards on public health, on marketing, and diversity. That's so diverse already. So many different areas. And Sanjeev also served as a vice president of the Organization of Pharmaceutical Producers of India. Oops. Okay, I think somebody needs to close their mic. Home, can you please close the mic? Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, and also Sanjeev has been a chairman for the American Chamber of Commerce. He's also served as a chairman for Medical and Regulatory Committee. And he's been on the academic board of a few reputed academic organizations as well, like the NMMIS, Pharma Management, IAS Management School, and IIHMR Jaipur. So Sanjeev, very, very happy to have you here with all of us. I'm going to pass the mic to you, and please share with us everything that you feel like, and also perhaps about what has shaped your leadership journey. I think that's something that we'd really love to also understand from you. So over to you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Sushmita, for a very kind introduction. I would love to actually believe all that, but I think it's a nice journey. I'm at a stage in life where I can look back from the rear view and mirror and say what has been the journey all about. And if I look back at all the journey, I think the number one thing that comes to my mind is the amount of exposure to so many different cultures, people, thinking, understanding, and very, very interesting, diverse people that I came across in my life. And each one ultimately contributes to you if you feel like absorbing something, and makes your journey that much better, and creates not just your path, but creates happiness for you. So it is something that I look look back and feel very happy about. It's also about, each one finding their own purpose in life and trying to say, okay, this is what I want to do. Opportunities to get them are not always there, which I fortunately went through those opportunities. I also felt that understood what leadership journey means, and part of it is also credited to Santosh for making me understand some of those things. Yeah. So, but the more important thing is the journey, if you ask me from a leadership point of view, has been so humbling that you feel responsible for so many things. You actually feel that you are accountable, responsible to so many things happening around you and a lot of people. And therefore, that teaches one the basic lesson that, look, leadership is always for somebody else. It is not for yourself. There's nothing in it that is of the self. And unless you reach that stage, you don't really fully absorb the value of leadership. And that has been probably the biggest learning, that how do you live for others and how do you ensure that your life is worthwhile for others. If you can't think about it that way, then leadership allows you to go the wrong way also. And all of us go through different moments. All of us go through different experiences. We make mistakes. We sometimes are on the right path. But if the North Star is always the cause, then I think we happen to do well. Fortunately for me, I was in an industry where you could always say you can do good and do well. Now, not many industries you can think of where you can do good and do well. So healthcare has been a boon to me. And the decision I took to remain in healthcare at the very beginning of my career has really helped me, because that's a different leadership that you feel, because you're really, every day's work is worthwhile because somebody's life is being saved or somebody's life gets better because of your leadership. And therefore, it is even more satisfying journey per se. But enough of all this, kind of high picture, high voltage thinking around leadership. But I'm happy to answer any question that you have, Usha. I think you are Sushmita. You have, I think, a bunch of questions that you told me you will ask me. I'm happy to answer all of them.
Sure, thanks, Sanjeev. That's what really touched me just now, what you said about the realization that leadership is about serving others, or just, being there for other people. But I'm wondering if this is a realization that you had right when you started your journey, or did it come along at some point? And if it did, then how did that change the way you were a leader to others?
I think I would be lying, or I would be foolish to say that it all dawned upon me, and I had some sakshatkar or something. And then nothing of that sort happened. It is, of course, learning over a period of time, but it did dawn upon me much earlier than many, I think I would say, in my career. And I think because I think being open as a leader, and it was quite a change, because I remember Santosh doing some tests with us, and I came across as something called an INTJ, therefore an introvert who. But I had to change my behavior to be very open and allow people to enter my world, and ensure that they. And the first thing, I think, the first few days of leadership, as I was absorbing, one thing I noticed was everybody came to you because they either needed a shoulder or needed a problem to solve. And probably that started to train one's mind that, oh, this is not about anything that I have to do. It's all about what others want out of me. Yeah. And, but at the same time, if you are in a position to drive strategic thinking, then you have to drive your agenda too at the same time. And that conflict was difficult for me to resolve for quite some time in the beginning. I think that for you to drive your strategic vision, you needed to be firm. You needed to go in a particular direction. You wanted to move the ship in that direction. At the same time, everybody used to keep coming to you because they have different problems to solve. They want different things out of the same thing. How do you get everybody to the same place? And then I think two, three things I learned. And one was genuineness. I think you might have a strategic vision, but is it genuine? Second is, are you able to sell the cause to everyone? People come to work because they have a job, but people do and perform because they have a cause. Are you able to give people the cause to go after? And thirdly, I think the important thing was that it is not just about you and the people around you, but if you are in a business like healthcare, then it's all about society and community around you, that you need to serve them also. So their purpose also needs to be satisfied at the same time. So I think this nature of conflicts were not easy to resolve for me. It took some time, but I started to learn from others, from other leaders in different places, and I actually went through various I actually interviewed a lot of people to understand how they conducted their life and what they thought. And they were very diverse people. I can tell you they were not, I've interviewed politicians, even some of them are very, very active till today, very big senior people. I interviewed a lot of artists. I still remember, asking uh, uh, Bharat Ratna Bhimsen Joshi, asking him that why during music his eyes sometimes while singing his eyes closed, and he said, "Look, he said audience hota hai, but you are talking, your Atma is talking to the Antaratma and Paramatma. So you are there with the audience and you are not there." And he says, it is the same what you do. You have to do in life, that you have to do everything for others. But at the same time, as a leader, you need to also understand that you need to be internally satisfied with what you're doing or be happy about what you're doing. So how do you balance? So diverse people, I talk to sportsmen, all kinds of people and successful leaders. And each one, fascinating. The journey was fascinating. And I think that taught me a lot. So not easy conflicts to resolve in my mind. I think I was more of a good sponge than any great IQ guy. So absorbing was more important to me than my own abilities. I think I worked hard, but the ability to learn from others was probably the biggest thing, and that took me a little bit. That took me some time, but it was a good I think phase where in the initial years of leadership, there are this. Cliched things about the first 100 days or something. I think I never checked how many days or how many months it was. I kept on doing it, and even today I do it. Even today I talk to people to understand what the successful people in life or people who have dedicated their life. It's worth seeing what drives them. There are people who have told me things which have stayed with me, for strange reasons, and what they talk about. I still remember, there is this social activist who became very popular, uh, Anna Hazare. I went to the village, Hirve village, just to see him. What is this man all about? A fascinating man, lives in a 5x4 area of a temple. I think one trunk which is broken. I don't think he has anything in his life which is his own. But I asked him, what was that moment when you felt that you live for others? He said, I was in a jeep in 1962 war. I was the jeep driver for the army. I got out of the jeep because I wanted to relieve myself, and a bomb exploded in the jeep, and all the people whom I was carrying died, and I was the lone guy who remained alive. And I said, God has given me second life, so it should be dedicated to others. So yeah, people have strange experiences for what people take decisions. So I think we all have. I had to literally ask people to teach me what all this means. So you're right; it was not easy in the beginning, but others' experience taught me.
So two things. One is the fact that you actually went out understanding leadership from a diverse
Yes.
backgrounds of people, right? I mean, what made you do that? Because that's not something that, especially 30 years ago or 25 years ago, 20 years ago, people would just naturally do. There's something inside you that made you do that. What is it that drove you to it?
Yeah, I think I also wanted to treat leadership as an experience for doing something good in life, not just to everybody else, but to grow myself as a person. And if I have to do that, I think why do people call somebody a successful leader? Because they have some success in some whatever they do. So why are we restricting success as a definition to only corporate leadership? Leadership can come anywhere. People can show leadership in any different circumstances. Yeah. And curiosity was always big with me since my childhood, since my early age. I was very, very curious as a child and as an adult also. And that curiosity meant that I redefined success. I said success means that everybody else who is successful is also part of our journey. And therefore, check what makes them or what makes what they do. And I used to hear big words when early stage of leadership. I used to hear big words, like selflessness, like maturity, like having a 360-degree vision and all kinds of things. And then I started thinking that who might have this the best. And then I realized it was not always corporate leaders. Yeah, you realize, in a sport or in let's say in cricket, a fielder has 360 vision. So because he or she is watching the ball and trying to find where the ball is. So won't that person be a better teacher of 360 vision than somebody sitting in some obscure office in a corner? So I think that's the reason I started doing it. Um, and what leadership gave me was access. People were ready to talk to me. People were, and that's a privilege, So in leadership, you have a lot of privileges. Those privileges should be used properly. Some might feel that the privilege I have is maybe I can access a business class seat, but somebody might feel access means that I might be able to approach somebody who is doing worthwhile work and maybe get access to the person to talk about his work or his or her work and talk to them. So I chose that. Maybe I chose that as a path, and it helped me. So it is just the things that I used to hear about leadership and read about leadership in books, and I tried to attach meaning to it, saying that is it really all about corporate leadership? Is it about something else also? And that maybe it was an unusual route. I now when you say it, I feel it was unusual, but I didn't feel until now it was very unusual. I don't know why.
Yeah, it is unusual, but I also hear the amount of richness that it gave you as a leader, right? I
Yes.
mean, and that's why sometimes these unusual routes become the routes that actually open a different world to all of us in whatever space we are in. So that was really fascinating to hear. The other thing that I wanted to also hear a little bit more about was the fact that you said about this inner conflict between, having your strategic vision and balancing other people's needs over there. So my need as a leader and the other people's, and it's not always, seemingly straightforward and compatible. And there are, so you said that it was a lot when you started off, and, how is it now for you? What has the learning been for you in that space? How are you balancing that?
I think there have been a few instances where I started understanding the value of why it should merge well. And I don't know whether Santosh is still there, but he will remember one incident. Yeah, he will remember one incident where I think we were going through a big merger between two big companies. And Santosh was trying to work with the management team on trying to get them together because they came from two different companies and completely different cultures, and trying to get them together. And I was in the joint company, I was the number two. So, but I was very successful from where I came from. So, in the room, there was a sense of unease about what was, about the whole merger and everything and all the discussions that were happening. And there are a lot of questions which were directed towards me when we were discussing in between. And I think I, for a moment, lost it a bit and said that, look, ultimately success comes to people who have to do a few things right and work hard. And so I said something which was a little bit stronger than what I should have said. And in a way, after the meeting, Santosh called me aside and said, you know what? Your people are already nervous around you, which we can see from their eyes. On top of it, you're scaring them. Hmm? And I said, Santosh, I never thought that way. He said, yeah, you are thinking that these people are making you uncomfortable. Do you realize how uncomfortable they are with you? I didn't realize it. I said, I'm very sorry. I really, I failed to take it. I said, look, he actually taught me a big lesson. He said, look around you and try to see whether you're making sense to everybody. Yeah. I think something he mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, whether he mentioned or somebody else mentioned to me around that time was that you don't have to come to every meeting room and prove that you are the smartest guy in the room. People anyway know that you are the smartest guy in the room. So why are you trying to prove it again and again?
I said that.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Including he told me that you don't I know you don't suffer fools, but you don't have to make them know that they are fools. So I said don't do that. And I said, yeah, this is fascinating. Yeah, I never thought about it. I did not sleep that night. I realized that I am a stupid guy. I don't understand this whole senior leadership story well. I've become successful until now, but I don't think I'm taking the leap to the next level. And I actually started introspecting. I Something changed and started realizing that look, ultimately in a corporate, it's a vehicle where everybody has to be successful together to go somewhere or reach somewhere. If that is the case, then yeah, it's your strategic vision also has to be their strategic vision has to be everybody's route. So everybody has to take the same route. So I started talking to each one in the team well, started telling them, selling them the vision, saying that this is what it is, started incorporating ideas from everybody. Okay, if you don't feel comfortable about this, tell me how it can be done better. And ultimately, the vehicle got better and better. The idea got better and better in my mind. And I realized that I can't, you really don't have the ability to think for everyone. But everyone can think together in a big way. What you can bring in is element of cohesiveness, element of high ambition, element of thinking for the cause. You can bring in some other elements which you are good at and get the elements from others when they know more about those things. And Santosh will of course remember that was Jaipur meeting, correct? Na? So where this happened, yeah, when I got taught this lesson. And it's worked well for me. Now, after that, I think I have been able to successfully talk to my teams. The teams are very cohesive. I have not had attrition in my leadership teams at all, most of the times. Even now, my leadership team is about 4 to 5 years old. Zero attrition in my team. People believe in each other, and I've understood that they have to start investing in each other. I have to be just outside the ring there when people start investing in each other. How to create that relationship, how to, I don't want to do this Western style of bonding. I really wanted people to invest in each other's emotions and feelings and goals. And that is very different than the Western style of leadership. So it's not about aligning to a scorecard, but it's about aligning to each other to build a scorecard. And that was very different than the Western style of leadership. And then now I've got a better handle of it, and now it works well for me. So yeah, it is. It's true. You learn because people teach you. No? So, and there is so much power in what people around you. So much power. So much people bring to the table. Learn to respect that.
I love that, aligning with each other towards a scorecard and not aligning to the scorecard. So that sounds really powerful. Also, what I'm so hearing, Sanjeev, although you were saying that you do, you've talked to people and now you bring them on board for everything, it also sounds like you're a great listener. You really go out of your way to understand what people need. So it also sounds like you sit back, take feedback, whether it's from Santosh, whether it's from your team, and you're somebody who really values it, even though it can be scary sometimes, even though it keeps you awake at night. And that sounds like something that's really worked for you.
It has, because God has been kind to make one mouth and 2 ears. So, so if that is the case, obviously hearing, I think even God has told us hearing is more important than speaking. So if that is the case, it's good to hear. Yeah. I also was impulsive. I always wanted to make my point the first. I also wanted to stamp that, look, I understand this better and quicker. I was like that. But I think I started learning that it gets me nowhere. What am I trying to prove and to whom? There's nothing that I have to prove to anybody. Yeah. So once that realization came, I started keeping quiet. I, generally don't speak in meetings unnecessarily. I speak the last. I've started to observe people a lot more, and that is again, different coaches taught me that observe everything around you, the body language, the tone, the people, their eyes, their way of speaking, their way of contributing. Observe everything. Get the get everybody to have a say, and especially it helped me when I was in diverse team in global roles, because there are very different cultures who come together. And an Austrian might think very differently from a South African to an Australian. And you can predict in every meeting the Australian will be the first guy who will speak. Hmm. And you can always predict that a Latin guy will not speak until asked for, or a Southeast Asian guy will not speak until asked for. So how do you get them to speak and talk? So it's somewhat observing everything that happens, cultural dissimilarities. So how do you notice that? And unless you are listening and watching, so I always say it's just not about listening, but it's about watching also around what is happening. And also this ability to introspect went on getting better. So I always, know when I go home, and generally I try when I go home to switch off. That I never bring my office home. I don't think my wife knows what happens in the office at all. And nor do I, my troubled day in office is never the a troubled day at home. So I don't bring that emotion back home. But I also am being an introvert and a loner. I get my own time. My wife also understands me very well. So when I sit, I introspect, what happened during the day, what has somebody taught me, why did that person say this? So it started to help me. I think, as you get older and older, and now I'm a very old man. So now I think we have started to understand value of it more. But when I'm coaching or telling any young leaders, I say this very often to them.
The power of observation and listening and taking a step back and pause. Yeah.
Sushmita,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Of course,
Yeah.
Santosh, please go for it.
Okay, for the interest of a lot of people among so one part, these questions helped us to understand the inner person in Sanjeev. I wanted to focus a little bit on the external one because this last story, yours, Sanjeev, taking over an Indian organization, and there are investors, and turning that around into one of the highly successful, efficient organization in 4 years' time. What are some of the key levers that you pressed? How did you go about this?
Yeah, I think Santosh is a very good question, and I've started thinking about it more deeply. That also what has gone right, and because many a times we do a lot of introspection of what has gone wrong, but I've started to think about it, what has gone right, and a few things come to my mind. I think one was stakeholder management. That who are the different stakeholders, and I actually had drawn a map that investors. I asked the investors, okay, tell me 5 things that are very important to you, which you cannot compromise on and that you need from us. And then they gave me a few things. The other thing I did was selection of the team. I think, it took me some time and journey and mistakes to learn that the team of champions may not be the best, but champion team is very different in behavior. So I started, no, I used to be very fascinated by very successful champion people, to bring them in to the team, bring their skills in, and I realized it may not work all the time. So I spent a lot of time in selecting the team this time, and put extra energy there to create people who bring in a lot of talent, lot of sincerity, but also are team players who are not high maintenance, who can independently work on their own, and who have point to prove that they know their subject well and they can do well. So that the bunch of people around that were selected was interesting. The third thing that I started thinking was that if what could be the best outcome that one can have out of this organization. And then I realized that India doesn't have a high quality specialty biotech company which can be a world beater. Now I said, okay, if that means that this company has to be a world beater and a specialty biotech company, what all we should achieve in the next 5 years and what all we should achieve in the next 10 years. I took some inputs from a lot of people and my team also and said, okay, these are the things that we need to do to get ourselves there. Then I started breaking it down and realized that these are the things that we can do every year to get there. I also was careful. I think one of the learnings that I had was not to blow the vision in everybody's face and say, this is where we want to reach and this is what we want to go. People will go gaga for 2 hours and then go back and, get burdened by the fact that they have to reach somewhere. So how to break it down into milestones differently and ensure that you just join the jigsaw puzzle. Don't allow everybody to, get burdened with everything around them that, oh, this big thing we have to achieve. I think those, and probably the last thing was that build world-class working environment. That culture building environment that you needed, whatever work you did, test it at world-class level. Ensure that the quality manufacturing, R&D, everything you do is from a world-class standard. Don't compromise at all. Ensure that company doesn't compromise. People don't compromise. Don't think about it that you're working for an Indian company or an Indian market. Make them more global in their thought process, make them think that this is important, that we achieve those standards. And also a lot of, people we got in had a lot of thing to prove to themselves in their life that, okay, I can do it and fuel that and individually fuel that. So I used to meet a lot of people around in the company in the initial phase to ensure that their ambition also is helped by us. Um, I think we had the CHRO is known to Santosh. I think he started working a lot on the culture aspect in the company. And today we have people who, because they got big jobs, left the company. And we have at least 12 people in the last 2 years who came back. They said, no, we could not adjust to any other culture. We just feel so happy and high here that we want to come back and you take us back at the same salary, you take us back in the same job. We are okay, but we want to come back. We want to succeed here. So it started to, and these are ambassadors. These people are ambassadors also. So it helps the company in a big way. Also, people also want their company to be known. So one of the things I consciously did was, worked on the external image of the company. That went everywhere. Actually, I ended up getting involved in a lot of associations, speaking at a lot of conferences and places and seminars, ensure that I'm a little bit more active on social media, which I generally am not, but at least LinkedIn I used extensively. But started to make, and then when those news items and news used to come and the newspapers used to cover us, the people in the company started believing that this is a good company to work for. Yeah, people started getting a lot of pride. And whenever there was a moment of pride for the company, I used to make it a point to publicize in the company like hell. That, oh, the company achieved this and, great job. So people started feeling, oh, this is a very successful company, people getting somewhere. And it is motivating for people. So, it's important to understand that motivation is extremely key to an organization to do well. And you have to ensure that people remain motivated by many factors. So check those factors and do those things. Consciously do those things. Don't shy away from doing it. I never like to spend so much time away from work on home to go to 100 conferences and do things there. But I did that. I said, okay, it is good. Now, of course, I sit back and send a lot of other people to do this because now I don't have to do it. Grooming leaders is more important. So let them be, let them take all the center stage now. But it's a lot of things that work, Santosh, for in us. And also, I think somewhere nobody should forget that luck played a part. During COVID, we became a company of importance. We became a company that really saved numerous lives in difficult circumstances. And that gave company employees a lot of purpose. But I made it a point to tell everybody that, look, how much they contributed in difficulty of the world in this country. So I think that inner feeling of cause being attended to also grew on people. And that was pure luck. It was more circumstantial. But using the luck well is also important. That using the situation well is also important. That make it in your favor and help people understand that they are doing meaningful work. So many of these factors, Santosh, I think help in trying to get to success. But also investor has hard realities, and ensuring that those results are achieved very important. And we were very much on the ball on that. That look, get it done this way. The results are important; they have to be achieved, and it worked in our favor. So I think everything worked in our favor. So I think a lot of factors, but we at the end of 4 years, the more important thing I think about is that I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful that I actually got an opportunity along with the team to do something which probably industry will probably remember for some time. Oh, this company did this very well. So I think it is. But see, life has also changed, no? So for these days I'm not so much on a high of these things were achieved, but I'm more grateful for the opportunity that I got to do. So the more emotion also has changed substantially.
Thanks, Sanjeev. Santosh, did you have a question on that, or can I ask another question?
No, I didn't have. I had a sense of this, but I also had an observation that your initial interest in dealing with and understanding multiple kinds of people possibly directly and indirectly helped you as a leader, because I haven't seen anybody from a pharma industry who have such deep rooted connections in government, with the doctors, even with the spiritual gurus of the country. So I think it's really, that your knack of engaging and connecting to someone who is from a non-corporate world, and building that strong relationship possibly really helped you in different ways later. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Good, and Santosh, you've told me something which I have to think over. I think it may have really helped. Yeah.
So, Sanjeev, you also talked about the luck that played a part in, way things have turned out for your organization, but also it's not a very, a normal situation in terms of luck, because mostly pharma industry is a very volatile one. And there are times when, there are these, for example, the vaccines that are considered super safe, and, a little while later, it is that they were not safe, and there are lawsuits and things like that. So it's not a very easy environment to really balance and respond to. And there are also malpractices that often happen. So how have you, and the way you're talking about all of this, it seems so easy, but I'm pretty sure it has not been easy for you to really navigate this terrain, which is so, unstable and uncertain in a lot of ways. So how have you navigated that? And for somebody who is in this industry, somebody who's aspiring to be in a leadership role in this industry, what would your advice be?
I think the number one advice I would give all the time is that, we are very fortunate to be an industry which is so cost dependent, that, you actually save lives. You actually add value to lives. So wear that hat of responsibility carefully, first of all. Understand that not many people get the opportunity to serve people so nicely. And also, you get paid much better than maybe a teacher who also tries to serve society but doesn't get paid well at times. Yeah. So you have so much going for you. Understand that, take that responsibility very seriously. That is the first thing I tell in CEOs in my industry, at least. But otherwise, also I tell others also the same thing, that look, take your responsibility seriously, that you have been given an opportunity to serve. And it should help you to think about what your purpose in life is all about. Stick to the purpose in life. The other thing, I tell everyone is that, look, what is rationally told as, you should do the right thing, you should not do malpractices, you should not do something wrong and all. Actually, people don't understand it rationally. This is one thing I've learned, that this rational thought is all about, about stick, that if you don't do this, these are the consequences. If you violate this, this is the punishment. So it's a very negative way of looking at rules and regulations and practices. I have understood that emotion works better in these cases. So whenever, for example, whenever I tell my people about compliance or practices in the market, I don't, I tell them, okay, the compliance manager will tell you all the rules. You need to know them, you need to follow them, you need everything. But let me tell you a different rule to follow. And I always tell them a simple thing that, in our life, we should do nothing, absolutely nothing that we can't tell our mother. And will you promise me that you will do nothing which you can't tell your mother? And I have seen even people in smallest area of the country, a field rep also responding so nicely to this that they really immediately connect that emotion. And I'm sure those words ring in them. I get a lot of people from, my past experiences in companies who come and tell me if I ask them when we talk, they say, this one thing we remember what you said. So it clearly has deep sense of, purpose and feeling. So, there are always this emotional and rational conflicts in our mind, but somewhere we need to find that if it's an emotional issue, treat it emotionally rather than rationally. So I think, so practices are something that I ensure that I take a very hard view in the review meetings on practices, but on a public forum, I would certainly make a point emotionally to appeal to people that look, and the last thing I tell people is that, especially in healthcare CEOs, I tell them, go and experience it. If your drug is saving somebody in the ICU, please go and experience it outside the ICU for one night, and at least see when a patient is wheeled out of the ICU and being shifted to the ward because he or she has got better because of your drug. You experience that once yourself. Don't look at newspaper cuttings to know that this happens. And look at it, experience it yourself, and you will change as a person. Or also see that despite everything that happened, somewhere something fails. It will make you more accountable. That look, people's lives are at stake all the time. Yeah, so I think it's important that people absorb this much more. I also tell people one thing that I mentioned in the beginning also, that leadership is when you have been appointed a leader, you have been not appointed as a person. You have been appointed as a person to somebody to take care of everything around you. And so it's not self-glorification, but it is all about, it's not an achievement for you, but as much as it is a responsibility given to you to take care of things around you and understand the slight nuance of it, and you will be better off. So these are things I would tell, and generally things work out. And you will always have things going wrong around you. You'll have some other industry or other people doing something. Ignore it. Now you don't have to do it. Your company people should not do it. Bother about what is around you. You cannot hold hands of people who want to commit a crime. Now, it is very tough. So be very careful about it, that you at least in your environment do the best.
Thanks, Sanjeev. It does sound like a real deep understanding of a human being that you have, because you keep talking about how it's important to not just connect rationally, but also emotionally, and really, talk to people and Santosh talked about how you connect with people. I think all of that is really showing the leader in you that, and the reason for why you are so successful as a leader. I really want to open up to the audience and ask if they have some questions as well. I'm sure they do, and we don't have a lot of time left. So I'm just going to ask Poom, if you can just transfer us to the gallery mode, and if any of you have questions for Sanjeev, we can take 2 or 3 questions.
Hey, Sushmita, this is Ashok. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. Yes, Ashok.
Hi, Sanjay. This is Ashok, and I'm part of ODA. And it's lovely listening to your journey about what you have done to one of the India's top 10 biopharma companies. is a great achievement, and it talks immense about your leadership. And it was very interesting to hear your story, Sanjeev. Thanks for sharing that. So one question which I have, I think after listening to all these achievements, what you have shared, I am a bit curious to know if Sanjeev Navangul gets his second chance to rewrite history, what is that which you do differently, which you would like to go and change?
Ashok, it's a fascinating question. And my answer might be very shocking and surprising in nature, but still, let me say it. I think the one thing I will change from my career point of view is that I would try not to be so driven, but create more balance in my life. Yeah. And I don't think a little bit of balance would have meant I would not have been where I have been. Yeah. But it would have meant a lot more time spent with my family in the early stages when my family was growing, my children were growing up, and my wife thought that, we could share more responsibility together. I think being very, very driven took away some joy from my life. And I really advise people a lot on this issue that be careful. You will miss out on certain joy, which is probably more important to you in life as you pass along. So be careful about this. Career ambitions sometimes drive you in a crazy way and get it all wrong. Yeah, so you have to be conscious of it. So you might be shocked by my response, but that is what I would do differently. The rest of the thing, I think I would say that look, as I mentioned to you about an incident with Santosh, maybe I should have had a coach a little earlier, than in life than what I started having. Yeah, there are two things I would change.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Sanjeev.
Thanks, Ashok. I think we have Narendra who's raised a hand. Narendra, please take the mic.
Hello, Sanjeev. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My question is, Sanjeev, during the articulation, you spoke regarding Western leadership and Indian leadership, and you drew a distinction. Also, in passing, you spoke about God, right? So I wanted to ask, how has spirituality, if at all, influenced your leadership style? And could you talk a bit about Indian leadership vis-a-vis the Western leadership?
So spirituality is not so much of a leadership thing, but it's basically about your own journey. It's about finding yourself more than anything else. And as you try to find yourself, what you sense is you start understanding the world better, understand what is around you a little bit better. And that gives you the sense of humility to accept everything the way it is, not to really react to things unnecessarily, understand that everybody has a role to play, understand that each one is made differently. When you are successful, very successful in the early stage of your career, you can become a Sachin Tendulkar kind of leader who thought everybody is Sachin Tendulkar in the team and had the same expectation. Or you can be somebody else. You can be, like what today you see in Rohit Sharma, no? That he really believes in his people and allows them to be what they are. So I think the spirituality actually helps you understand the world better, understand the environment better, understand people around you better, and that impacts your leadership. So that's, I think, an important aspect. I don't want to. Nobody can overemphasize spirituality, but it is very important in life. I think this is something that is different. And I'm not a critique of Western style of leadership, the second part, what you asked. But what I feel is that it's basically extremely rational and very rule-based and commandments-based. While different cultures react differently to different things. And when I mention Indianness, if you're a leader in India, understand the Indianness of people, understand how what they believe in, how they react in. Understand that they are made differently than maybe somebody from Canada or somebody from Norway. They're made differently. So if they are made slightly differently, their cultures are different. Cultural understanding is important in leadership a lot. And I'll give you a very, very interesting example. That in Germany, when I was working in Germany for many years, in 90s, I used to be frustrated in the beginning that no, people enjoy with each other a lot and they're going out and having beer with each other and nobody's inviting me. But after 3 or 4 months, people started inviting me. And then I realized, you know what, they first wanted me to prove that I am competent and to be good enough for me to be part of their professional team. And once I gained some professional, let's say, respect, they started involving me in the social part of their journey. So it was very different. I have tried to apply the same rule when I went to Philippines. First time when I went to Philippines as a supply chain head for Aventis in 2000, I tried to apply the same rule and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. And I used to find people getting upset with me. And then I realized that here is a culture that you have to be first friends with them. So actually, I used to take the team out for beer and I would go for a dinner and all. I started building very nice relationship, and then they were driven by that emotion that this man is a good man, he's with us all the time, he understands us, and they went all out to work for me. Now, these are two very different cultures. Similarly, India is different. So Indianness has a lot of, there's a lot of pathos in Indianness which people want to believe in each other. People want to ensure that they're successful together. People want to understand, the rules of the game differently. So, if you give them an example in Ramayana, they are very quick to understand. Yeah. But if you tell them that, Philip Kotler told you these things, it's not easy to make them understand. So make Indianness also as part of your leadership. I'm not saying it is the only thing, because the discipline that a scorecard teaches you, balanced scorecard teaches you, is not the discipline that maybe a mythology will teach you or some old story will teach you. But they teach different things. So you have to create the mix in a proper way. But my point was not one against the other, but as much as it was about blending the right things for the right purpose at the right juncture and time.
Thanks, Sanjeev. We have a question. Oluvada Milola. I hope I'm taking your name correct. I'm just going to read it out. So, Sanjeev, the question to you is, what was the moment through your leadership journey that shaped your approach and mindset in terms of leading your team? Is there a particular moment that you can remember?
This is a pretty interesting thing. Many, I think, many years back, probably what did happen once was the fact that I was new to a company and they were starting the journey new in India. That was 2006, very, very long time ago. And that was one of my early, very, very senior positions in the organization. And I used to get lost because on one hand, there were people demands. On one hand, there were demands of a new organization to do well and go at a speed which was, F1 race kind of speed, and F1 race on Indian roads, so it was even more difficult. On the other hand, the global company had expectations of a archetype of a leader, archetype of what scientific understanding you have about, great understanding of science you have to really be successful about everything. So the amount of demands around me were so many. And I actually broke down internally. I said, this is just too much. I just don't know how to handle this. Have I taken a step which means that I have gone, allowed Peter's principle to hit you, that you have reached a position of your incompetence now. And it made me nervous. It actually made me nervous. And I actually took a couple of days off and I said, let me relax and answer this question. And it's good to answer this question. It can go either way. It's fine. In life, You make decisions, you sometimes realize that you're not competent enough to do something. It's okay, no harm done. Yeah, you're meant to do something, you will do it. And I actually started, you might find this complete madness, but I actually started roaming around the hospital of AIMS in Delhi. And I started sitting down on the street and talking to the relatives whose patients were admitted inside the hospital, who were shifting from smaller villages, shifting from different places, just to be with the ailing relative of theirs and dropping everything in life. I started asking, I literally took, I think, met about 12, 13 people and talked to them about their experiences. What made them give up everything? What made them do this? Why is life so important to them of the relative who is admitted? What has caused this? How have they emotionally dealing with it? How are they financially dealing with it? And I realized that they're dealing with far more than what I think organization demands of me. I'm not even, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I was shocked, how stupid I was. Thinking of challenges that overwhelmed me, where really they were not real, that kind of challenges which cannot be overcome. Some with hard work, some with relationships, some with understanding, some with homework. You could solve those. So I went back after, I think, a couple of days back to office as a completely new man. And that has stayed with me. So I don't know whether I'm actually answering the full question, but one of the incidents I remember in my life is that talking to the relatives at AIMS outside the campus on the street, literally sleeping on the streets, made me realize what challenges were in life. Yeah.
Throughout this thread of challenging yourself to change your own perspective, Sanjeev, has really stood out in the things that you've said. So it's really it's quite refreshing how your personal growth has been about you challenging yourself at so many different levels. Thanks for sharing that. We only have 1 minute. One question that I have, and we do have a couple of questions. I don't think we can ask those because we probably will run out of time. But if you did not have this career, or if you didn't have the pressure to have a career, so to speak, or finances or whatever, who would you be today?
Actually, this is a question I asked myself a few days back, so it's a little easier to answer. I think I would have been a better version of Harsha Bhogle. I would have been really
Cricket.
the sports expert of commenting on everything on across all sports. I can do that even now. I can claim to be reasonably knowledgeable about many sports, and I would have enjoyed doing that rather than having a career like this.
That's so lovely to hear. And your laugh says that it's something that gives you so much joy thinking about it. So that's really.
Yeah.
So what's your
Absolutely.
parting message to everybody who's here? What's the one thing that you
I
want to
would-
leave us with?
it's I'm not I'm no buddy to advise anybody or suggest anything, but I would only say, look, we all have been blessed with great journeys. Enjoy your journey. There will be hits, there will be misses, there will be good things, there will be bad things, there will be joy, there will be sadness. All kinds of things will happen in our life, but enjoying the journey and learning through everything is probably what will make you, not destinations are, futile, because who decides destinations? We just make put some milestone and say this is the destination. Well, it's a completely, as you go through your life, you find it completely irrelevant to your journey. So, enjoy the journey, take pleasure out of everything, find purpose, and you will be very, very, what can I say? I don't say you will reach Maslow's need of hierarchy, self-actualization, but at least you will feel good about yourself and your life.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. That's really enlightening to say, to just enjoy the journey and, everything will fall in place. Thank you so much, Sanjeev. It was such a pleasure to hear you. It was really lovely. I think what really stood out to me amongst like multitudes of qualities that this came up about your leadership, for me, it has been the basic curiosity, the need to connect with people, the need to challenge yourself, be open to things that were coming to your way in terms of feedback or in terms of experiences. I think all of this really just stood out in your sharing. So thanks for so generously sharing all of this with us and for being here with us today. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. I'm privileged that I am the first one in your series. And thank you, Sushmita, and thank Santosh. Big credit to you. So if people like it, then you are also part of that that liking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks everybody in the audience. Thanks so much for being here and making this